They called it the Battle of Little Bighorn. We called it the day the boy died, and the warrior was born. This is not the story you know. No generals, no glory. Only a 13-year-old Oglala boy, anointed with sacred yellow paint, thrust into a storm of bullets and blood. He saw the thunder beings ride. He heard the teeth grinding. And when a wounded soldier stared up at him, he made a choice that would haunt and define him forever. For 147 years, this truth was buried. Until now, his name is forgotten. His scars are not. Press play, if you dare walk the path of the greasy grass. But before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. Not a single white soldier lived through the clash with Custer. A conflict ended quickly under the midday sun. Crazy Horse, that steadfast chief, had already overcome General Crook's troops on the Rosebud earlier that same day. I believe he might have destroyed the army completely had he decided to call more fighters from our camps and set a trap at daybreak, since they had made camp in darkness after the engagement. He had earlier defeated the horse soldiers who assaulted our camp on the Powder River that bitterly cold March dawn during the snowblind moon. After that, he traveled westwards to the Rosebud, and when the troops came to assault us, he drove them back. In the end, he proceeded to the valley of the Greasy Grass, our people's land, where we desired only to live undisturbed. 2 days before the fight, we set up our village in the valley, beside the Greasy Grass's southern bank, before noon. Our encampment was enormous, with lodges too numerous to tally. To the south upstream were the Hunkpapas, then the Oglalas, the Miniconjus, the Sanarks, the Blackfeet, and the Shahielas, while the Santus and Yanktonai were farthest north. On the eastern side ran the Greasy Grass, high from melting snow in the Bighorn Mountains, wooded at its edges. From a hilltop one could view the mountains south and west. Hills and bluffs stood opposite the river, with various ravines slicing through the high banks. Lower hills lay to the west, where we pastured and watched over our ponies, countless in number. A fighter called Rattling Hawk, although killed, having been struck in the hip during the Rosebud skirmish, was cured by a healer named Hairy Chin. On the day preceding the battle, I had purified myself and was preparing to bathe with some youths when Hairy Chin called me to Rattling Hawk's lodge, needing my aid. 5 other lads were there, and he wanted us to portray bears in the healing rite, because his strength came from a dream about the bear. He colored my body and face golden, adding dark lines on each side of my nose, and bound my hair to look like bear's ears, topping my head with eagle plumes. While he worked, I remembered my own vision, and abruptly I sensed myself rising from the earth. In that moment, I understood things beyond my ability to say, and became sure that some misfortune was soon to come upon us. I was full of dread. The other youths were colored completely in red, wearing actual bear ears upon their heads. Hairy Chin, dressed in an authentic bearskin, started singing like this. At the entrance the holy plants are glad. 2 women came in, standing on each side of the wounded warrior, one carrying a bowl of water, the other some type of plant. As I looked at the bowl, I tried to see if it held the whole sky, as it had in my vision, but no, I could not tell. During the presentation of the plant and vessel to Rattling Hawk, Hairy Chin persisted in his incantations. Then they presented him with a scarlet staff, and he stood up immediately. The wounded warrior, leaning upon the holy red rod, trailed the women out of the lodge. We boys, impersonating small bears, capered playfully around him, making growling sounds. Feathers of various colors extended from our mouths as we enacted this rite. Following that, Hairy Chin came out on hands and knees, looking remarkably like a bear, I thought. Rattling Hawk's walking improved, and although he could not fight the next day, he healed not long after. We youths went off to bathe, determined to wash the paint from our skin after the ritual. When we got back, the people were dancing and sharing stories of bravery from the conflict with 3 stars on the Rosebud. Our duty was to bring the ponies nearer to the camp at sunset. By the time we finished this chore, darkness had descended, and the people kept dancing around fires, their merrymaking continuing. We moved between dances until weariness overtook us, and we could stay awake no longer. At daybreak my father woke me, telling me to go with him to pasture our horses. While we were doing this, he advised me to put a long rope on one horse so we could catch it easily and thereby secure the rest. He stressed the need for alertness, warning me to watch the camp carefully and bring the horses back very quickly in case disaster occurred. Several of us lads looked after our horses together until the sun was high and the warmth grew stifling. We chose to find relief in the river, and my cousin kindly agreed to stay with the horses until we returned. As I rubbed grease on myself, I sensed a strange feeling of dread, as though something awful was about to happen. Nonetheless, I went with the boys to the riverbank. West of the village, many people were busy gathering turnips, and a good number were already in the water. By the time my cousin led the horses down to drink, we had been submerged for a long while, the day being fiercely hot. Abruptly, the crier's shout sounded in the nearby Hunkpapa camp. "Riders approach! They charge! The horsemen come!" Shouts passed from camp to camp all the way to the Santies and Yanktonis. The Oglala crier echoed the same words, his tone becoming more desperate. Everyone rushed to catch their horses, and we were lucky ours were close by. My elder brother, astride a chestnut horse, rode fast toward the Hunkpapas. I had a buckskin horse. Upon hearing my brother's shout and observing him ride toward the Hunkpapas unarmed, my father raced over, directing me to fetch his pistol and restore it to him, then come back to me immediately. Additionally, he held my own revolver, inherited from my aunt. I snatched the weapons, leaped onto my pony, and chased after my brother. Just past the Hunkpapa camp, a heavy dust cloud swirled as the Hunkpapas, many still wet from the river, dashed about shouting in alarm. From the dust came soldiers on large horses, looking powerful and tall, firing their guns. Revolver now in grasp, my brother yelled for me to retreat. A patch of dense brush and trees stood beyond the Hunkpapas, where fighters were gathering. He steered there, and I trailed. Women and children were already fleeing downstream in great numbers. Glancing back, I saw them all scrambling up a hillside. Reaching the timber, many Hunkpapas were present, and troopers shot overhead, making leaves drop where bullets hit branches. The women and children kept running. Warriors rode in on their mounts, and I couldn't see events unfolding in the settlement below. It was all dust, shrieking and roaring. In the woods and near the Hunkpapa camp, we all shouted, "Show courage, do not act like women. The helpless are breathing hard." I believe this was when Gall stepped in to stop the Hunkpapas from retreating. I stayed among the trees a while, reflecting on my vision. It granted me stronger resolve and created a feeling that the soldiers would lose and that my kinsmen were all storm beings. Then a mighty cry pierced the dust. "Crazy Horse comes." Crazy Horse's advance was signaled by eagle-wing whistles and shouts of hokahi like a shrieking gale arriving from the north and west. The valley darkened with dust and gun smoke, alive with phantoms and a tumult of yells, hoof thuds, and shots. To my left, I heard the troopers' horses, iron-shod, withdrawing into scrub, gunfire exploding all around. The mounts finally burst through the bushes, and I was engulfed in frantic motion as riders and horses surged in and out, moving upstream while bellowing, "Hasten! Go swiftly!" We were all mixed in the uproar and murk as the soldiers fled upstream. I witnessed little, but I did see a Lakota warrior charge a soldier who stood his ground fiercely. The Lakota seized the soldier's horse by the reins, but the soldier shot him dead with a pistol. Being young and slight, I couldn't press forward to where the soldiers were, so I killed no one. All was murky and indistinct, with far too many figures ahead. Soon soldiers and many Lakotas were crammed into the river, and I was submerged briefly. Men and horses tangled and struggled in the water, creating an effect like hailstones pelting down. After climbing from the water, people started removing garments from fallen soldiers and putting them on. One trooper on the ground still stirred. A Lakota rode over and told me, "Young one, dismount and take his scalp." I got down and began scalping him. His hair was close-cropped, and my blade was blunt. He was gnashing his teeth, so I shot him in the head and then claimed his scalp. Many of our fighters were chasing soldiers up a hill across the river, while others moved downstream. On a far hill above the Santee camp, a great dust cloud swirled with our warriors, flitting through it like swallows, and many guns fired. I resolved to show my scalp to my mother, so I rode toward the knoll where women and children had assembled. En route, I spotted a lovely young woman amid warriors heading toward the fight. She sang, "Brothers, your allies are here now. Stand firm, stand firm. Do you wish to witness my capture?" Passing through the Oglala camp, I saw Rattling Hawk sitting alone in his lodge gripping a rifle. He chanted a sorrowful song, "What can you achieve, brothers, that lies beyond my power?" Reaching the women on the hill, they were all singing and trilling to hearten the fighters across the river. My mother gave a special tremolo just for me upon seeing my first scalp. I lingered there a while with my mother, watching churning dust on the opposite hill. Riderless horses emerged from it. I stayed with the women after displaying my scalp. They were all trilling and singing. Thick battle dust obscured our sight, but we knew the soldiers would be destroyed. Many boys my age and younger were there with mothers and sisters, and they urged me to join them at the fight. So we mounted our ponies and departed. We saw gray horses with empty saddles stampeding into the water as we rode down toward the river. Arriving at a gully mouth leading up the bluff where combat raged, we crossed the Greasy Grass. By our arrival, most soldiers were fallen, many already deceased, though some still breathed. More youths had assembled by then, and we circled on horseback, loosing arrows at the troopers. I discovered one soldier twisting with arrows embedded and started removing his coat, but a man shoved me away and took it himself. Then I glimpsed something gleaming hanging from the soldier's belt. I pulled it free. It was a circular, shining yellow item that looked very fine. I wore it as a pendant. At first it made a ticking noise, but then ceased. I kept it around my neck a long while before understanding its purpose and restarting its sound. Next, the women congregated around us, and we ascended the hilltop. There, gray horses lay slain, some atop soldiers, soldiers atop horses. We observed few of our own fallen, since they'd been gathered earlier, though many of our men perished or were wounded. Battle dust made clear vision difficult, complicating recognition. It seemed nobody identified which soldier was Pianhanska, and I didn't spot him. I noticed one soldier lifting his arms and moaning, so I shot an arrow into his brow, making his limbs shudder. I saw some Lakotas trying to aid another Lakota. Approaching, I recognized Black Wasiku, brother of Chase in the morning. Shot through his right shoulder, the bullet lodged in his left hip as he'd hung sideways from his horse when hit. They were applying healing herbs. He was my cousin, and both our fathers grew so furious over this that they slew a soldier and disfigured his corpse. The soldier was heavy and the flesh looked edible, but we did not eat it. A young boy, smaller than me, asked me to scalp a soldier for him. I complied, and he dashed off to show the scalp to his mother. Most warriors chased the remaining soldiers back to the hill where their pack animals were while we remained there. After a time, I tired of searching. The scent of blood was strong, and I became weary of it. So I returned home with several others. I felt no regret whatsoever. I was satisfied. The soldiers had come to injure our people and us, and this territory belonged to us. When I was in the thicket with the Hunkpapas during the initial gunfire, I sensed this outcome was certain. I trusted my kinsmen were united with the storm spirits from my vision, and that the soldiers acted foolishly by coming here. All remained awake through the night in the village. At dawn, another war group returned to the hill where the soldiers were, and the men who had guarded there overnight came home. My mother and I accompanied them. She rode a mare with a young foal running beside her, keeping close to its dam. We spotted the horses and pack animals up there, but the soldiers were strongly entrenched. Near the hill's base, west of the Greasy Grass, grew chokecherry bushes. A large youth named Round Fool dashed around the shrubs. We inquired what he did, and he replied, "There's a white man hiding in there." And indeed there was. He had concealed himself when the other soldiers withdrew uphill and had remained there all night. We began shooting arrows at him, feeling as though we pursued a jackrabbit. He crawled from one bush side to the other while we ran about, firing our bows. Once he cried out, "Ow!" Later we ignited grass around the bushes, and he burst out, sprinting. Some of our warriors killed him. After climbing the hill's rear where our men were positioned, we peered over. We couldn't see soldiers lying in their defenses, but we observed horses and pack mules, many lifeless. Descending and recrossing the river, soldiers shot at us, bullets striking water. Dusk neared as my mother and I galloped back to camp. By then, scouts had warned more soldiers approached upstream, so we resolved to depart. Before nightfall, we were packed and journeyed up the Greasy Grass toward Woodlouse Creek in the Bighorns. We fled through darkness, following the river. My mother tossed some young dogs into the pony travois that carried my 2 younger brothers and me. They kept trying to clamber free, so I spent much time putting them back in the travois, meaning I got little rest. We reached a small dry creek by morning, made camp, and ate heartily. The meat had streaks of fat within it, and I wish I had some now. By noon we moved again and arrived at Woodlouse Creek by the mountain's feet, where we camped. There, 3 bears, a man with grave injuries, went into spasms and kept repeating, "Janini, Janini," I don't know what he meant. He died eventually, and we named that place the camp where Janini perished. That night, everyone grew alarmed and started yelling, "Soldiers approach!" I looked over and saw what seemed like troops nearing us, but it proved to be some of our own men wearing soldiers' clothes. They were just being playful. Scouts reported the soldiers hadn't followed, and all was safe now. Across the camp, big fires burned, and victory dances happened all night. I hope this eyewitness story offers you a fresh view of the Little Bighorn battle and the Great Sioux War of 1876. Keep watching for more such videos. I aim to share more first-hand battle accounts, so have a great day, and until next time.